Hi everyone, my name's Donna Preedy and welcome to this video where we're going to talk about how to handle conflict like an absolute pro. So, unless you've been living under a rock for the last 10 years, there's a good chance that you've had interactions with people. And wherever there is people and wherever there are communications, there is the potential for conflict to arise. Now, conflict can occur in many different ways. It can be you're having an argument with someone. It can just be that somebody has really annoyed you and you're stewing on it. So, in this video, we're going to talk about how to handle conflict like a pro, regardless of which side that sits in, regardless of whether you're already having discussions, heated discussions with someone, or if you are the type of person that just retreats and sits there and stews on it, this video is for you. We're going to touch on all of that. So there are three elements to consider when you're handling conflict like a pro. The first thing is that if you have touched a nerve with someone else, or if somebody has done that to you, there's a good chance that your value systems have been challenged. So within yourself, just identify, okay, my values have been challenged. That's why this is really, really, really getting to me. But on the flip side, also get to know should I call them an opponent? Get to know your opponent's values as well. This will help you when you're communicating. If you don't know what's important to them, then it's very hard to communicate in their language. And there's a very good chance that there's plenty of people out there already that you just naturally get along with. And there are those personality types out there that, doesn't matter what you do or say, you feel like it's like coming up against sandpaper. The key with that is get to know what's important to them. Okay. When you know what's important to somebody else, you are maximizing your chance of being able to communicate your intended outcome in terms of what is most important to them. Okay. Now, if you can't do that, if you can't take the time to do that, don't expect them to do it. And anticipate that you're going to be like this for maybe a lot longer than you need to. So get to know your the other party's values would be my first number one tip. Number two tip, what assumptions are you making about how things are going to play out? The problem with assumptions is that, first of all, they serve us, so we don't want to get away from them. Assumptions do serve a purpose. They allow us to process massive amounts of information very, very quickly and act very, very quickly. If we had to process new information constantly, we would be exhausted at the end of the day. So we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. However, if you do find yourself in a conflict, stop and ask yourself, what assumptions am I making here? Okay. There's probably a really good chance that you've delved into the history of your mind, you've pulled up all of your worst case scenarios, and then you're acting as if they are true. Sound familiar? Okay, come on. We've all done that, right? So ask yourself, what assumptions am I making here? For example, I had a client last week, and I talk about this in I've got a mini course that goes right through exactly how you can do this. And we spoke about a gentleman that was assuming that he was going to go into negotiations and it was going to become a screaming match. Okay, was based on previous meetings where it had become a screaming match. But just because you've had one before, it doesn't mean that they will all go that way. Okay, so ask yourself, what assumptions am I focusing on? And that leads us into point number three, which is focus on your intended outcome. Okay, focus on the end result that you want. Now, why it's important to mention assumptions before we jump into that little gem is that if you're making assumptions and you don't have a greater awareness and an absolute clarity of what your intended outcome is, your subconscious is focusing on the assumptions. Okay, and whatever we focus on, we create. Okay. Whatever you focus on, you create. So this is where it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I knew that they would behave that way. Well, okay. What were you focused on? Were you focused on a resolution or were you focused on your assumptions? So stop, grab out a pen and paper, punch the notes into your phone, whatever you have to do, whatever conflict you're in right now, get really clear. What is your intended outcome? What would you love to create from this hostile situation or this situation that's really, really bothered you? And I hope that those top three tips will help you just I don't know, intercept at one of those layers so that you can start to handle conflicts like a pro and enter into conversations with all of the background work already done so that you're not bringing a whole heap of baggage to the table. So know your other party's values so that you can communicate what's important to them. Check your assumptions and focus on the end result. Always in discussions, lead the end result, and that is that I'd love to see a solution. Let them know that that is your intention. So I hope that that has been helpful for you. These top tips on how to handle conflict like a pro. Thank you.